So you were saying, Selena, uh, we got all the way up to. You can either do the maybe just do the whole thing again.
Okay.
Why you're interested in gun control?
Okay, first say who you are.
Okay, so I'm Selena Colburn, and I live in Burlington, and I represent part of Burlington, basically a neighborhood of Burlington that is near UVM and the hospital, and dips down into Winooski. It's called the Chittenden 6-4 district, and I represent that district in the legislature, state legislature, and the House of Representatives.
Okay, why are you interested in gun control?
So I am interested in gun control because we live in a country that has really high and scary rates of gun violence, and particularly compared to other countries that have done more work to regulate access to guns and use of guns. So I think there's things we can do to change that for everyone. And then I also am a parent of 2 daughters, and just on a personal level, as I see more and more incidents of school shootings, especially, I worry about my kids and want them to be safe, and worry about all kids and want them to be safe.
Yeah, I agree. And how did you help get the bills passed? Was it your idea?
So it wasn't my idea, but wasn't my idea. So there have been people in the state legislature. I'm actually pretty new to the state legislature. I'm just finishing my first term, which is 2 years in the state house. But there have been people there, like especially Philip Baruth, who's a state senator, who've been trying to pass gun violence prevention laws for years and years and years. So he's been putting background check bills forward for years and years, and people have been doing the same on the House side. Sometimes people have lost their seats in re-election bids because of trying to do that work. So definitely not my idea. I think there's a lot of people who have wanted to do this for a long time, and things shifted this year because of the Parkland shooting and because of what happened in Fairhaven, Vermont, where there was someone who was apprehended who had been planning a school shooting and had gotten fairly far along in their preparations just days after the Parkland shooting happened. And so there was a real shift both in the legislature in terms of people's willingness to actually take action and move things forward, and then also the Governor Scott had a real shift in his thinking around this issue, and so actually really pushed the legislature to act. So wasn't my idea. Lots of people's collective idea, and lots of people who've been working really hard on this issue for a long time. But I do serve on the House Judiciary Committee, so in the House of Representatives, everybody gets assigned to one committee, and that's where you really spend the bulk of your day and do the bulk of your work vetting bills before they get to the whole House floor for everyone to vote on them. So the House Judiciary Committee is the committee that worked on the gun violence prevention bills that we passed in the legislature this year. So I spent a lot of time with those bills, and was one of the people in committee who supported us to do more with the bill that came to us from the Senate. So we actually added some additional measures through an amendment to that bill that I can tell you about in a minute. But so that was my role. I spent a lot of time with those bills, like most of the legislative session in one way or another, especially the middle chunk of it, working with those bills.
Cool. And can you tell me about the new laws?
Yes. So we passed 3 bills that address gun violence prevention, include gun violence prevention measures or sort of safety measures. And then there's some other things we've done around mass shootings that I can tell you about as well. So the first thing we did, I think the bill number is S221, and it's a bill about what are sometimes called extreme risk protection orders. So what the bill does is it says if someone is presenting with a lot of evidence that they're a danger to themselves or others, that there can be a hearing and the court can order any firearms in their possession basically confiscated, like removed from the person. And it kind of mirrors our process of how we deal with court orders when one is in an abusive situation. So there's a temporary order that can be applied that has kind of, and then there's a permanent order that can be applied within a couple weeks of that. So that was the first thing we did. We also had actually last year in the House of Representatives, out of my committee, passed a bill that I think is really important. So the bill number for that is H422. And what that bill does is it allows police officers who come to the scene of a domestic violence incident to confiscate any firearms that are, as long as they're doing that in a legal way. So we know that is for women, in particular women, but not just women, who are facing abuse in a kind of household situation, that is a really dangerous time when they have a law enforcement, like, call the police maybe for the first time. That's when their risk of extreme violence and even being murdered goes up really significantly. So the idea is that during that time, if we can capture some of the most dangerous weapons that might be in the possession of the abuser, it gives them more time to come up with a plan for their safety. And so that's really important. And we had passed that actually last year, and the Senate would not move on it. It was just sitting in a committee in the Senate, and it really took some of the shifts that happened this year around gun violence prevention to get that bill moving and finally passed. So, and then the final bill that we passed that is specific to gun violence prevention is S55. And that was a bill that included many different measures. So originally it started out as a bill to help figure out what to do with firearms that had been confiscated by state or local, police, because a lot of them are just sitting in storage units, and the state has the ability to dispose of them in different ways, including selling them, but they weren't doing it. And so it became, like, police officers would say, we can't confiscate more weapons because we have this storage issue. So there was a bill that kind of came up with some solutions around that. That was the underlying bill. But it got amended in the state Senate to include a provision that said that if you're a minor, you can't purchase a gun without. So we amended that actually in the House to say you can't purchase a gun unless you've taken a hunter safety course. But we sort of raised the legal age to purchase a gun. In some cases, there already is a federal age, but not all cases. So we sort of made the state law mirror that for all kinds of guns. And then there was a background check provision that got added to that bill. So